Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're heading to Japan with Sean Connery's fifth outing as 007, a film packed with ninjas, volcano lairs, and one of the most memorable Bond villains ever put to screen. From behind-the-scenes tensions to bold creative gambles, this production was anything but smooth sailing. So take off your shoes, have a shot of sake, and let's fly through 20 things you never knew about You Only Live Twice. American screenwriter Harold Jack Bloom was initially assigned to write You Only Live Twice, while Richard Maybaum was unavailable. But his draft was ultimately deemed unsatisfactory. Even so, several of his ideas survived in the finished film, including Bond being killed in the pre-credits sequence, his burial at sea, and the climactic ninja assault on Blofeld's headquarters. The producers then approached children's author and Ian Fleming's friend Roald Dahl to develop the screenplay. He was instructed to include 3 Bond girls, a sacrificial lamb, an ill-fated villainess, and a principal Bond girl, but was otherwise granted free rein by director Lewis Gilbert. Dahl considered Fleming's 1964 novel to be the weakest of the series, describing it as little more than a travelogue lacking a cohesive plot. Instead, he based his script loosely on Dr. No from 1962, confining the action to a single country and centering the story around a science fiction premise. The completed film was one of the rare adaptations of Dahl's work that he genuinely enjoyed himself. During production, Sean Connery's off-screen relationship with Bernard Lee and Lois Maxwell was frosty at best. The tension stemmed from the fact that they, along with several other Bond actors including Anthony Dawson and Daniela Bianchi, had appeared in the Bond spoof Operation Kid Brother, also known as OK Connery, alongside Connery's younger brother Neil. Sean was far from pleased that they had parodied his screen persona opposite his sibling. Lois Maxwell later defended both her own involvement and that of Bernard Lee, insisting they had taken part in the Italian spoof purely for financial reasons. Actresses Akiko Wakabayashi and Mie Hammer travelled to the UK ahead of filming to learn English. While Wakabayashi adapted quickly, Hammer struggled with the language. As she had originally been cast as the larger, more tragic role of Suki, the situation became problematic when it was clear things were not progressing as hoped. When told the bad news, Mie Hammer was so devastated that she threatened to throw herself from her hotel window. Shaken by her reaction, the filmmakers solved the problem by swapping the roles. Akiko Wakabayashi assumed the larger part, renamed Aki at her own suggestion, a shortened form of her name, while Hammer was reassigned as Kissy Suzuki, the film's final Bond girl, a role with far less dialogue. Donald Pleasance was a late replacement for producer Harry Saltzman's original choice of Blofeld, Czech actor Jan Verick. Although the production initially attempted to persevere with Verick in the role, director Lewis Gilbert and producer Cubby Broccoli reportedly felt he came across as a poor benevolent Santa Claus, rather than a credible menace. Officially, Verick left due to illness, though it has long been alleged that he was in fact fired. Even so, traces of his performance remain in the finished film, including shots of Blofeld seen from behind in his chair. Pleasance later recalled that when he reshot Verich's scenes, he was at first acting opposite thin air, as Sean Connery was occupied with other sequences. And eager to give the Spectre mastermind a distinctive trait beyond his white Persian cat, Pleasance experimented with various ideas: a hump, a limp, a beard, even a withered hand, before ultimately settling on a facial scar. Unfortunately, the effect proved uncomfortable, as the prosthetic was literally glued to his face. Blofeld's malevolent Moggy was genuinely terrified by the gunfire and explosions detonated around it during the climactic battle inside the volcano lair. The poor feline was so distressed that it had an accident on Donald Pleasant's trousers several times during filming. When Pleasance released the cat after Blofeld shoots Mr. Osato, it promptly disappeared and was discovered days later hiding in the rafters of the soundstage. The ordeal left it so traumatized that it never worked on a film or television set again, with the production company paying compensation to its handler for loss of earnings. Notably, in later Bond installments featuring Blofeld, his cat conveniently exits the scene well before any gunfire or explosions begin. The title, You Only Live Twice, comes from a short poem in Ian Fleming's novel. It goes, "You only live twice, once when you were born, and once when you look death in the face." In the book, the poem is written by James Bond for his friend Tiger Tanaka. Owing to a poorly worded attribution at the front of the novel, it is sometimes mistakenly credited to the 17th century Japanese poet Matsuo Basho. However, the text makes it clear it is not a true haiku, a traditional form of Japanese poetry at all, but Bond's rather clumsy attempt at poetry after being taught the form. Bond's compact autogyro, Little Nelly, was no invention of Q Branch. It was created by RAF Wing Commander Ken Wallace, who developed the Wallace WA-116 Agile in the early 1960s. After hearing about it on the radio, production designer Ken Adam saw it as a fresh successor to the gadget-packed Aston Martin DB5. He arranged for Wallace's autogyro, nicknamed Little Nelly, after music hall star Nellie Wallace, to appear in the fifth Bond film. Special effects supervisor John Steers fitted it with weapons before it was shipped to Japan, where Wallace flew it himself, while Sean Connery shot his close-ups against a blue screen at Pinewood. Wallace completed 85 flights to capture the spectacular aerial sequence. And talking of that aerial dogfight between Little Nelly and 4 Spectre helicopters, it was overseen by Second Unit Director Peter Hunt. Cameraman John Jordan was capturing aerial shots from an Alouette helicopter when a sudden updraft caused another aircraft beneath him to shear off his skids and slice through his foot, nearly severing it. The pilot managed to crash land safely and Jordan was rushed into surgery, but after a difficult recovery, chose, with Broccoli's support, to have his foot amputated and replaced with a prosthesis. With less than half the dogfight filmed and Japanese authorities refusing permission to fire rockets over national parks, the unit relocated to Torremolinos in Spain, which closely resembled Miyazaki. The sequence was completed 3 months after the accident. In the novel, Ian Fleming placed Blofeld's lair in a coastal castle. Production designer Ken Adam quickly discovered this was impractical, as Japanese castles were never built directly on the coast due to typhoons. Instead, director Lewis Gilbert proposed housing Blofeld's rocket base inside a volcano. Albert Broccoli embraced the idea, and Adam estimated the build would cost $1 million, almost the entire budget of Dr. No. After producing nearly 400 sketches, he constructed the huge set on the Pinewood backlot. The set required 700 metric tons of structural steel, 200 miles of tubular steel, 200 metric tons of plaster, 500,000 couplings, 8,000 railway sleepers, and over 250,000 square yards of canvas. It was completed with an opening crater roof, working monorail, moving helicopter pad, and a partial version of Blofeld's Inceptor rocket, Bird 1. Akiko Wakabayashi, who played Japanese Secret Service agent Aki, couldn't drive. The sequences featuring Aki's distinctive white Toyota 2000 GT were achieved through a mixture of stuntmen in wigs, front and rear projection, and even crew members towing the car with a concealed cable during location shoots. 2 convertible versions of the 2000 GT were built exclusively for the production, the only examples ever made, as Sean Connery was simply too tall to fit comfortably inside the standard hardtop. Sean Connery's then wife, actress Diane Cilento, stepped in as Mie Hammer's double for the swimming scenes, wearing a black wig. She thus became the first wife of a Bond actor to appear as a Bond girl on screen. There are conflicting reports of why this happened. Some say it's because Mie Hammer couldn't swim. Underwater, I suppose, as she can be seen swimming in the film. Others say it was because she was suffering from stomach cramps. Although a stunt woman had been hired for the scene in which Spectre No. 11, Helga Brandt, meets her grisly end at the mercy of her leader's razor-toothed pets, German actress Karin Dor insisted on performing the stunt herself. Plunging into the artificial pond, Dor was pulled beneath the surface by a diver who tickled her foot. Her frantic cry as Brandt disappears into the murky depths was, in reality, a blend of genuine screams and hysterical laughter. During the car chase featuring the Toyota 2000 GT and Osato's henchman, the filmmakers struggled to devise a convincing way to eliminate Bond and Aki's pursuers. Inspiration came from Dana Broccoli, wife of producer Cubby, who suggested that an aircraft equipped with a powerful electromagnet could simply lift the assassin's car off the road. The concept was reworked to involve a Kawasaki Vertol KV-107, which swoops in, snatches up the vehicle, and unceremoniously drops the unfortunate killers into Tokyo Bay. For 007's climactic fight with Hans in You Only Live Twice, Sean Connery undertook judo training. He was coached by Joe Robinson, who had previously auditioned for the role of Donald Red Grant in From Russia with Love. Robinson was later cast as gem smuggler Peter Franks in Diamonds Are Forever. To lend greater authenticity to the stuntmen portraying ninjas in the climactic volcano battle, the producers sought the expertise of Japan's only practicing ninja master at the time, Masaki Hitsumi. Aged just 34, Hatsumi had inherited the ancient tradition from his retired mentor, Toshitsugu Takamatsu, ensuring the sequences carried a genuine martial arts pedigree. He even had a small cameo in one scene with Tetsuro Tamba. James Bond's burial at sea in Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour was in fact filmed off the coast of Gibraltar aboard HMS Tenby. To maintain the illusion of warmer surroundings, the frigate's crew wore their summer uniforms, despite the scene being shot in the depths of winter. Complicating matters further, the shroud in which 007 was consigned to the deep stubbornly refused to sink. The underwater footage of it drifting down to the seabed was later captured in the Bahamas by Lamar Boren, who had previously filmed the aquatic sequences for Thunderball. When editor Thelma Connell's first cut stretched to nearly 3 hours and fared poorly with test audiences, Peter Hunt was asked to take over editing duties. He agreed, but only on the condition that he be named director of the next Bond adventure. Hunt disliked Donald Pleasance as Ernst Stavro Blofeld and insisted on recasting the role with Telly Savalas for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, though he retained a bald-headed look. While in Japan, Sean Connery and his wife Diane were relentlessly pursued by the international press. Reporters repeatedly addressed him as James Bond at press conferences, and local journalists even tried to photograph him in a restroom. 30 additional security guards were hired to manage the chaos, yet some of them began taking photos as well. Connery was allegedly photographed on a toilet, and the image was published in a Tokyo newspaper. He then angered the Japanese press when he appeared to say he did not find Japanese women attractive. The remark was later attributed to a mistranslation, made on a day when he was exhausted after intense filming. To calm tensions, the producers released him from his obligation to make another 007 film, despite offering him $1 million to return. While scouting locations in Japan for You Only Live Twice, the senior production team narrowly escaped disaster. On the 5th of March 1966, producers Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, director Lewis Gilbert, cinematographer Freddie Young, and production designer Ken Adam were due to depart Tokyo for Hong Kong and London aboard BOAC Flight 911. Just 2 hours before their scheduled departure, they accepted an unexpected invitation to attend a ninja demonstration, a decision that caused them to miss their flight. The Boeing 707 took off as planned, but 25 minutes later, it disintegrated over Mount Fuji, killing everyone on board. The crash of Flight 911 was the third fatal passenger airline accident in Japan in a month, with another happening just a day before. The tragedy cast a chilling shadow over the production, lending an unsettling resonance to the film's title. The Bond producers initially wanted Frank Sinatra to perform the theme to You Only Live Twice, but he was more interested in playing a villain. He did, however, suggest his daughter, Nancy Sinatra, who had scored a major hit in 1965 with These Boots Are Made for Walking. Unlike her father, she eagerly accepted, becoming the first American to sing a Bond theme. Nervous in the studio, Nancy required 25 takes alongside composer John Barry. The version heard in the film is a seamless blend of the best moments from each recording. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about You Only Live Twice. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.